So day 5, everybody, gut health masterclass. So today sees us looking at the microbiome, our ecosystem. So did everybody get their 40 a week challenge as their workbook? Let me see, let me come back in and just see. Did everybody have thumbs up? Perfect, brilliant. So this is one that we'll come to a little bit later on. Some of you may have done this with me already in the past. It's a great exercise to do and all about helping to support this super healthy microbiome, which is so critical to overall health. We have no idea of all the different microbes that are present within our bodies. You know, we're only really just starting to really delve into the research with regards to the microbiome and the huge benefit as well that it is to our immune system, which is so apt at this time that we find ourselves in with COVID virus everywhere. If we can support our health through our microbiome and therefore engage with our immune system, we are going to be in so much more of a stronger position to offset diseases, viruses, and all the rest of it. And it's this added protection. So if we want to be healthy, not just in regards to our gut, if we want to be healthy in general, we want to be making sure that we understand a little bit more about the microbiome and how we can best support it. So that's what we are looking at today. So credentials, I think everybody on here pretty much knows me already. So I will scoot over this because you will have heard it all for 4 days already and will be bored to death of hearing it again. And also you all know about my struggles with my IBS for the best part of 20 years. So let's skip straight into the microbiome. So we have more bacteria than cells in our entire body. Now, originally, it was thought that that was a lot more in terms of the amount of bacteria in our gut than our cells, but actually more recent research, and I think it dated back to 2015, when they did some more recent research and found that we have 30 trillion human cells versus 39 trillion bacteria residing within our cells. And the majority of this bacteria resides within the colon. And their role, like I said before, is to keep us healthy, keep us free from disease, is exactly what we want. We want to go through our lives feeling really fit and healthy and not succumbing to diseases, to infections, or anything like that. So what they do is they ferment on the end products of the food that we eat. And when they do that, they produce these short chain fatty acids, which are called acetate, propionate, and butyrate. So these guys act as an energy source for our vital organs, so heart, lungs, kidneys, but also the cells within the colon as well. So this is why fibre is so important in our diet, because fibre drives this composition and changes within the gut microbiota. So we do want to make sure that we have significant amounts of fibre within our diet. And unfortunately, in the West, this isn't what most of us are doing. So if we look back to kind of like the history of when we're born, you know, when we come through the womb into the world, depending on how we come into the world. So if, for example, you are delivered vaginally, then you come down the birth canal and you then are exposed to your mother's bacteria. If, however, you don't and you are C-section, then you don't come down that same way. You don't get that exposure to the bacteria. So this is one of the reasons why when I'm doing a consultation with somebody who, say, has a lot of allergies, it could even be skin issues, eczema, psoriasis, those types of presentations, I will go all the way back to how they were born, because this is so important to understand what did they come into the world as. You know, how were they delivered, what type of bacteria, because also we want to be thinking about, well, what was the mother's bacteria like if they were born vaginally, you know, was she in good health? So infants are born with gut microbiota, without gut microbiota, but rapidly after birth, the infant's gut is conventionalized by bacteria coming from the mother and surrounding environment. Another thing to point out, I remember working with somebody who had awful allergies to absolutely everything. And one thing to note was that that baby had been born vaginally. However, there were complications. And rather than the baby being given straight away to the mother, and in which case then also getting the bacteria from the mother as the baby goes onto her skin, it was scooped off and popped into an incubator. And unfortunately, its first experience of kind of the organisms it got exposed to during that time were not helpful organisms at all. So when we did a stool test, those organisms were not healthy. And this, unfortunately, was what was inside that infant's digestive system and body from birth, and kind of what set the scene then for all these allergies coming about, because it wasn't given the opportunity to create this healthy environment, because there was too many of these nasty invaders that were already in the child's digestive system, causing havoc and, you know, disrupting the immune system and leading on to, it was a whole host of digestive issues and allergies towards milk, towards a number of different foods, as I remember rightly, and yeah, lots of skin issues, breathing issues. It was, yeah, really quite a mess. So the composition of the microbiota stays unstable until approximately age of 3 or 4 years of age, when it actually becomes mature. So if we look back prehistorically then to what our hunter-gatherers used to consume in terms of prebiotic fibres. Now, prebiotic fibres are what feed the friendly bacteria. So we have all this bacteria in our gut, but what we want to do is we want to ensure that we feed them so we keep them healthy and robust. So look at the different consumption between the hunter-gatherers, 108 to 135 grams a day. And now what are we at? 1 to 11 grams within the Western society, which is just shocking, isn't it? But we all know this. You know, if we're going to live off fast food, convenience foods, lots of sugar, you know, lots of bread, burgers, all that kind of rubbish that people just pick up without even thinking, then basically we are not consuming fibre, and we are going to get fat, we're going to get unhealthy, we're going to set up inflammatory responses throughout the body, which will lead on to diseases, and the key ones, you know, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's. All these things are brought on through inflammation, through not having this healthy gut flora. So benefits of microbiota is that they educate the immune system, which is exactly what we want them to do. And so therefore they increase the tolerance to these microbial immune determinants. They act as metabolic organs that can break down otherwise ingestible food components, and they degrade potentially toxic food compounds like oxalates, and they also synthesize certain vitamins and amino acids being the proteins. And in terms of the synthesis of vitamins within the gut, that's mostly your B vitamins, which is why a lot of people who have gut issues will complain of energy issues as well, because B vitamins are all to do with our energy cycle. And also with as well as B vitamins is vitamin K. So as well, other benefits, barrier function. Barrier function is so important to keeping us healthy and making sure that we don't progress into any kind of leaky gut or gut permeability, which can then lead on to all these food reactions, you know, if left unchecked for a number of years, maybe not even that long, depending on the individual, that could then actually lead on to an irritable bowel disease, which is exactly what we don't want. You know, we don't want this presentation of these autoimmune conditions whereby the body is literally attacking itself. So the other benefits of the microbiome is that it protects us from pathogens. So pathogens, anything that causes disease, so viruses, yeast, bacterium that is bad, and also parasites. So when things go wrong, we get this dysbiotic environment. Dysbiosis is basically an imbalance between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. And what we want is we want to have way more good bacteria to keep the bad guys in check. There's always going to be a balance, and that's how it should be. But we don't want this imbalance between our gut bacteria to change or to lead to changes in how the digestive system operates, because when this happens, then we are going to get those symptoms that will mimic IBS, because at the end of the day, like we said right at the beginning, IBS is just a collection of symptoms. It's a syndrome, it's not a disease. But when we have this imbalance within this bacteria within our gut, favoring more of the bad guys for the good guys, then this can lead on to the leaky gut that we talked about before, whereby food proteins escape through the bowel wall, they get into the bloodstream and they cause this immune reaction. So for one person, that might be a migraine. For another, it could be a skin rash. For somebody else, it might be diarrhea. There's all sorts of different things that can happen. And when it progresses and we get onto inflammation, and certain markers get raised during inflammation, so we can actually see that on a stool sample, that's setting us up for potentially an inflammatory bowel disease or some other kind of autoimmune disease such as rheumatoid arthritis. So systemic inflammation may also occur, leading to infectious diseases. So things like your allergies, asthma, and also cystic fibrosis. So how do we create this healthy microbiome? Because that's all we need to do, right? If we can create this great healthy environment, then we are going to be super healthy. So intestinal bacteria thrive in a stable, nutrient-rich environment. So that's what we need to be doing. We need to give them this stable, nutrient-rich environment that they so crave. So how do we do this? And this is where this 40-a-week plant challenge is going to come in. And I don't want you to do it just for 1 week and then think, well, that's it, I'm done now. I want you to carry on being mindful of the diversity that you are putting into your system through the foods that you eat. So when you do the 40-a-week plant challenge, I want you to be really mindful of going out and shopping, ideally as local and as in season as possible, because that's when we're going to get the most amount of nutrients in our food. So not when it's been shipped from all over the world and it's been on a shelf for God knows how long. We ideally want to get it as fresh as possible. Now, if we could all grow our own organic vegetables in the garden, we would be, giving ourselves so much nutrition. It would be unbelievable. And that is how it used to be before the invention of the supermarket. So I would encourage you to try and shop locally and to look at all the different varieties of fruits and vegetables. Now, we want to get that balance right between fruit and veg. I know a lot of people are super good at eating fruit, not so great at eating vegetables. So if we look at a ratio or in terms of the different proportions that we want to have, we want to be looking to consume between 7 or 8 different types of vegetables every day and 2 to 3 fruits. And ideally the low sugar fruits, like the berries, the not so sweet apples, pears, rather than your tropical fruits. So really kind of have that in mind when you go shopping. And also be thinking about herbs, because fresh herbs are so nutrient dense and they count as well. So when you start on day 1 and say you put broccoli, broccoli is awesome. So say you put broccoli down as day 1, but then you have it again later on during that week, you do not record it again because you've already put that once. So you want to be looking at having 40 different types when you come to the end of your chart. And it's quite eye-opening when we do this. Sometimes what's quite a good experiment to do is actually not to be mindful when you do it the first time and just go, well, this is what I normally eat. Where have I got to on this chart? And then actually put some mindset behind it and then see what you can do. And it'll still challenge you to get those 40 in. And I know I've read that even having more variety than that is proven to be even more beneficial. So see what you can do. It'd be great to hear back from you in terms of how you got on there as well. And then the other things that we can do to help support a healthy microbiome is through the ingestion of supplements in respect to probiotics and prebiotics. And I'm going to come on to some of the good products that I use in my clinic, I use for myself, my friends and my family, and share some of the science behind those products with you a little bit later on. And the other thing at the bottom, as you'll see, is eat dirt. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out into your garden and literally start eating dirt, but what I am suggesting is you get your hands dirty, because we just live in this sterile environment, and now even more so than ever with all these hand sanitizers everywhere. They affect our gut. People don't think about that, but anything that we put on our skin gets absorbed into the body. So if we are killing bacteria from our hands, we are also killing bacteria throughout the body. And what's that going to do? It's not going to do anything for building this healthy microbiome. So where are we going to be eventually if this continues and everyone just gets in a habit of this hand sanitation all the time? We are literally going to be killing off all this beneficial bacteria, which is what's going to actually be useful to keeping our immune systems really, really healthy. Another key one would be when you go to, say, a farmer's market to get your vegetables, or the Unicorn like me, if you live anywhere near Charlton, they will have the dirty carrots. So what would be great to do is buy the dirty carrots, don't wash or scrub them to death, actually leave some of the dirt on there. And you're probably thinking, what? But this is how you will ingest all these awesome microbes into your system, which are going to be really helpful to create this healthy microbiome. So I'm just going to see, I think someone's just dropped possibly a question into the chat. So let's see. Oh, this is so interesting. Thank you, Myra. I love the microbiome. I could read about it all day long. There's so much research out there. If anyone's interested in reading more about the benefits of eating dirt, then Dr. Josh Axe, he has the book out on Eat Dirt. It's literally called Eat Dirt, and it's such an interesting read. So let's move on from there. Here we go. So probiotics and prebiotics that I use from Optibac. And the reason I choose Optibac to work with in my clinic is purely because they specialize in probiotics. They don't do anything other than probiotics. They don't do any other types of supplements. So all their research goes into the probiotics. They use the top 3 manufacturers in the world, and they are forever funding research. So they never bring a product out to market unless it's backed by science. And this is one of the reasons why I can kind of buy with confidence and recommend with confidence these products to my clients, knowing that they will all get a good result when they take them. So if we start from left to right, so bifidobacterium fiber, this is a high fiber probiotic that really helps with bowel regularity. It's great for kids as well because it comes in a sachet and tastes really nice, tastes a little bit like candy floss. So get a really good compliance with this one. You can take anywhere between 1 and 4 a day. As with anything, I always say, start low and work up and just see what it is that you need. So you could add it into yogurt, ideally plant-based yogurt. You could sprinkle it onto cereal, or you can literally just pour it into your mouth. It's quite a nice one. It's a little bit chewy because it's got fuzz in there. Fuzz is a prebiotic that feeds the friendly bacteria. Then we move on to Saccharomyces boulardii. So Saccharomyces boulardii we use in instances of traveler's diarrhea or anyone who's kind of struggling with loose bowel urgency. It's really, really quick and really effective. I've had so much great experience for my clients when I get them onto this product. It's also a great one for killing off Candida. There's quite a lot of research behind it killing Candida. So that's another reason why I would use this. It's not actually a probiotic as such, it's actually a yeast, but it's a really good yeast. And then 1 week flat. So here we have a combination of different strains of bacteria that really help to tackle bloating. Now you do need to do a full 7 days straight on this to get the effects. And they only ever used to do a 7-day one. And I can remember ringing them up saying, you need to do a bigger pack because people need to be on it for longer than just the 7 days. So now they do this 28-day supply, which is great. It works out cheaper because for some of my clients, I will recommend they do 1 a day for 7 days and then increase to 2 a day and 3 a day and possibly even 4 a day, depending on what they're experiencing in terms of their bloating. And then we have the kind of hero product for me, which is their latest product on the market, the Max Strength 50 billion probiotics. Now, I spoke to OptiBac forever about bringing in a high strength probiotic, and each time they pushed back saying the research isn't out there that shows that any of the strains that we want to use would actually adhere to the gut wall, because that's what you need, this adherence to the gut wall, and actually deliver 50 billion into the host system, so into our bodies. So there's a lot of probiotics on the market that will be super expensive, that might be way more than 50 billion, but actually, are they working? You know, how much of that 50 billion is actually doing the job it needs to do and getting to where it needs to get to? So at least we know with this one, the strains that they have used, of which there's 3, all are effective and will deliver the 50 billion that it says on the tin when you actually ingest it. So the science then, and this is another reason for me why I really push back when clients will say, oh, well, I've got probiotics, I bought them from Tesco. And I'm just thinking, well, you know, we're just throwing our money down the drain. And I know I did for years because I didn't have the knowledge that I have today. You know, I have had so many meetings and talks with OptiBac when I first started working with them. I've done courses in probiotics to understand more, and I go on Google Scholar as well, and I put the strains in there to find out what the research is behind those actual probiotics when I'm looking specifically for my clients. So we need a genus, a species, and a strain, and quite often probiotics, when we look at the packaging, we have possibly a genus and a strain and a species, sorry, but generally speaking, a lot of the time the strain is missing. Now the strain is where all the research is. So if we don't have the strain, we don't actually know what it is that we're taking into our system. So for everyday Max, we have Lactobacillus acidophilus NCFM. NCFM is the strain. Those last kind of 4 digits are what we want to be looking for. And this is what promotes a healthy intestinal barrier. Then we have HN019, which reduces frequency of gastrointestinal symptoms and improves gut transit. Actually works on 8 out of 9 symptoms of IBS, does the Max Strength. Another key thing to note with the strain HN019 is that it chews up gliadin. So for people who have issues with gluten, then this probiotic can really help, because if they do ingest any gluten, it's really going to help offset the negative side effects of actually having gluten in the diet. Not that I would be encouraging anyone with a gluten sensitivity to kind of have it and have this probiotic, but just if you are out and maybe there was some cross-contamination, you're not going to react in the same way. And then the Bifidobacteria lactis B104 decreases upper respiratory illnesses as well. So a great one for this time, for this COVID time, if we're suffering with gut issues, and we also want to make sure that we protect ourselves from upper respiratory as well. And then the Bifidobacterium fibre has the BB12, which promotes the bowel regularity. It also has FOS, which is the prebiotic fibre to feed the friendly bacteria in the gut. We've talked about the Saccharomyces helping to reduce bacteria and also eradicate Candida. And then we've got all the strains of Lactobacillus, Lactococcus and Bifidobacteria in the 1 week flat, which all work together to reduce the bacteria. And then you've also got the addition of the FOS, which helps to feed the bacteria in the gut. So these are like 4 really key products that I recommend to my clients. So we're going to have a look at a stool test. So this is the one that I use in clinic that just gives me so much insight into what is going on with my clients, into their digestive system, into their microbiome, into whether there is any dysbiosis, any inflammation. It really is the starting point to get into the root cause of what's going on within the gut. So top level here, we can just see we have these markers at the top. So maldigestion, infection, metabolic imbalance, dysbiosis, and inflammation. And then we have this score here. So I'm just going to do top level, otherwise we will be here all day. So maldigestion is flagged up as 5. So that is kind of a moderate need for support. Inflammation is right at the top in red at 10. So this is high need for support. Dysbiosis, this imbalance in bacteria, again, is a 10, high need for support. Need for probiotics, so prebiotic support is fine. We've got no metabolic imbalance there, but we also have a really high infection. So then it shows us whether or not we need to focus on dysbiosis. So we want to be ideally in zone 1. So it gives us these 4 zones. And depending on where we are within each zone, each one really sets up more of a stage for inflammation as we go around here. So we want to be making sure, if we look up here at the inflammation associated dysbiosis, that we're in the green. With the methane dysbiosis score, again, that we're in the green. Now, methane is a big one in respect to constipation. So if we see anything out of the green and the client is struggling with constipation, then we want to be working on reducing that score. So again, this gives us our bacteria, and just very briefly, here's the healthy cohort. So here is their line. So what we want to be looking at is that when we have this stool test analysis done, that we are as close to this line as we can be, because this is where the healthy people reside. And these are all the different types of bacteria. We'll call them the phylums, we'll call them families. And then it gives us on the right hand side what can be an issue with having too much or too little of this particular type of bacteria within our system. And then it shows us digestion and absorption. So pancreatic elastase, this is how we digest our proteins, fats and carbs. So we want it about 500. So if you can see here, 158, so that's low. So we need enzymes here to support the digestion of our carbs, proteins and fats, because this person is probably feeling pretty rubbish, reacting after food because they don't have the enzymes to break it down, and just really not getting the nutrition out of their food that they need to keep them healthy. So probably also experiencing quite a lot of energy deficit. And then if we scoot down here to inflammation and immunology, here we can see we've got calprotectin and eosinophil protein X. Both of these are inflammatory markers. So this is a potential case of inflammatory bowel disease, and we're in the red, so it definitely is. Then we look at the gut microbiota, these short chain fatty acids. This is all to do with the client's eating habits. So do they have enough of the correct fibre going into the diet, or do we need to intercept and change that up? And then this is the PCR technology. So this is all DNA analysis on the commensal bacteria in the gut. So we can see this dysbiotic pattern where all these little black marks here, so many down this right hand side and not too many in the middle or down the left hand side. So really showing this picture of dysbiosis, which can lead on to leaky gut and autoimmune conditions. So that really needs to be rectified. And then we come to the culture part. So within the lab, they get the Petri dish, and then looking to see how everything cultures, if there's any additional bacteria or even yeast coming out. So it shows a little score here: no growth, potential pathogen, meaning potential disease causing organism, potential pathogen, sorry, non-potential pathogen, potential pathogen, and then a pathogen. So we can see here this particular strain, Klebsiella, is a potential pathogen. It's in the yellow, it's a 4+. And then we've also got Candida species, which is a 3+, and again, a potential pathogen. So we need to get all this cleared out. It's also looking at parasites. So some parasites detected here, and then a moderate one of Dientamoeba fragilis detected as well. So we would need to do a parasite cleanse for this particular client. And then what the beauty of this test is that it will then analyze this within a lab environment to show which prescription medications or which natural antifungals or antimicrobials will work best and give us the best results. So we can see with this particular one, the Candida species, if we look at the natural agents, caprylic acid has come out highest. Now, I tend to find caprylic acid comes out really quite low for me whenever I see any kind of Candida species. So it's quite interesting that it's come high on this one. And then again, the Klebsiella, it'll show within the natural medicines. So all of these could be used, the berberine, oregano, plant tannins, and the uva ursi, but the one where we're going to have the biggest effect would be the plant tannins. Now, if this person was, for example, experiencing a lot of side effects at the moment, that might not be the one that I would go in with straight away, because it might be that it would put too much of a stress on that system and they would have a lot of die-off and therefore a lot of symptoms, and it would just make them feel really rubbish. So actually what you might do is you might go in with something that's not going to kill it off quite so quickly, kill off some of it, get them into a better position, and then go in with the plant tannins. So day 5 of our Gut Health Masterclass giveaway, we are giving away the 1 week flat. So let me just check, in fact, who won yesterday. I can't remember. Absolutely brain dead at the moment. I didn't have the best night's sleep last night. I think that's what it was. I was on my screen. I'm naughty because I never do this. I'm never on my screen till late, but yesterday was just crazy. So I ended up being, and I paid the price of not having the best sleep. So what were we on? We were on day 4. Oh, Carmen. I don't think Carmen's on today, is she? So Carmen received the, or won, should I say, the free food diary review. And I will let you know tomorrow who gets to win the 1 week flat. And they're amazing probiotics. So lovely people, do we have any questions? Oh, so Gail's saying, what are plant tannins? So basically they are substances from a plant which basically they can help support the whole digestive system, or as we can see, they can help to eradicate Candida, or just do like a bit of a clean sweep really of the gut itself. Any other questions?